If it's okay, you can all see my screen now.
Yes.
Yes, okay. My name is Marcel. I work for the Municipality of Enschede in the Netherlands. And as part of the Empower project, we work on the Empower project, which is about rewarding change in order to stimulate the less use of conventionally fueled vehicles. With a lot of partners involved, I won't go into detail. And there is also a short movie that kind of explains Empower within 3 minutes. I'm not going to show it because of the time. It will take some time, and the streaming might be a bit blurry, but on the website you can see more. But Empower is about rewarding change. So we stimulate people by carrots, by a thumbs up, by rewards. We use ICT for that. We generate feedback, do surveys, and we do it in several locations, several cities. So, for example, we have 4 living labs where we test things, which are Enschede, Gothenburg, Helsinki, and Manchester. And we have 7 take-up cities, which are Antwerp, Bologna, Budapest, Milan, Newcastle, Odense, and Reading. And we have a lot of follower cities. What we do is we test things in the living labs with a smaller number of users, say a few hundred, maybe up to a few thousand. And then in the take-up cities, we are aiming for large-scale implementations. For example, in Bologna, we almost have now, I think, 20,000 users who participate. What we do is that we try to persuade people to take more the bus, the bike, work at home, walk, leave less, use the car less, and we use technology to deliver incentives, challenges, rewards to people. We have 3 tools within the Empower consortium. One is Commute Greener, which is a Facebook-based tool, which is about self-reporting, so people set their own goals, report about how they are doing, get badges rewarded, etc. Then we have Switch, which is a bit of track and trace, manually combined with challenges that the operator can put in. So, for example, you can put a challenge for a city and say, okay, if you cycle this week 50 kilometers, you can get points, or you can get a badge. And Smart is the most complex tool, I think. It does track and trace 24/7. It automatically detects the modality, and based on historic data, you can get challenges based on where you traveled, your modality you used. You can get challenges rewarded. And of course, there's a lot of technology behind the applications. So the Commute Greener, Switch, and Smart are the front end, so to say, solutions. But there's a lot of technology about at the back end. We can ask questions to people. We manage a web shop, all these kind of things. What do we do? I will focus now a little bit more on the Smart application, because it kind of shows most of the features that are available, and it is a combination of information, and it is about personalization and incentives and challenges. So we combine real-time traffic data. So we give people information about how busy is it on the road. Aiming at car users is a starting point to persuade them to leave the car or avoid peak hours. We combine that with the multimodal route planner. So if people would like to shift to cycling or walking or public transport, and then now they use the car, they can look up what route might fit best for them. Then the application does automatically track and trace multimodal. So we know where people work, we know where people live, we know where people do their shopping. Well, we kind of know everything about people. And based on their mobility patterns and the aims we have as a city or as a transport organization, we can give challenges, we can incentives to people. And that's the incentive management part, where we connect the personal mobility behavior with challenges, with the goals of the city. So that's where we connect the goals of the individual with the goals of the city. And how does it work? As an example, this is a screenshot of the Smart application. it has changed over time, but we put in incentives to let people use the application. For example, and we can give them a challenge. So for example, says, go green, visit the city center in a sustainable way, and you can get 25 points. And then people start using the app, not by that automatically, but they start using the application. And it gives us a lot of data on where people are traveling. And based on the travel patterns, this is a map of the city of Enschede. Beautiful city. And then we can zoom in on a specific time, for example, rush hour, and then the car trips in this case, because that's what we would like to change. And then we combine this pattern, this peak hour, at the location. For example, at the western part of our city, there's a business and science park university, and there we have a few bottlenecks. Based on the application, we know where people spend more time in car, and then you see a few points. And we have there a tunnel and a bridge, and that is a bottleneck. And based on the travel patterns and the sensing, we know where people come from. So down you can see the zip code, the postal code where people are coming from, and the amount of people. And here we see, okay, a lot of people come from this zip code. So if you would like to change something there, this is the zip code that is more likely to gain success. Especially because we also know about the alternatives, because we combine it with multimodal route planner and all the types of data sources. So we see that in a regular basis, here is where people use the car, but if they use the bus or the bike, or the train is even faster, it doesn't take that much longer. Walking, okay, that takes much longer, but compared to the car, bus, bike, and train seems like an alternative. So we try to persuade people to shift to another mode of transport. And for that, for example, we put in an incentive and a challenge, and we get evaluation data out. So this is how the application works, and we use the application in our city, in several cities. We modified it for some cities, but I'll come back to that a little later. So basically what we do, we challenge people. We challenge people and we give them rewards. So for example, you can get 10 points per kilometer if you walk or take the bike, or you can get 3 points per kilometer if you use public transport. And also in the system we have personal challenges, so it's just for you, or we have group challenges, where you can form your own group and say, okay, as a group, and then I invite people to participate in my group. As a group, we would like to cycle 500 kilometers this week. And if you do so, you get points as a group. And then the points part is where you can trade them for rewards. So we combine this, the challenges and the rewards, or in the incentives, the challenges with local businesses who provide discounts on goods, on a free cup of coffee, a discount on a bike. Also we work with badges and leaderboards. So it's a variation of what we can do, and also varies per city. But basically we use technology to measure what people do. We use technology to deliver challenges and rewards to people, and we combine it with local businesses to provide these things. Some examples, how does it work? Because there is a lot of variation within the Living Labs as well as the take-up cities. In Gothenburg, they started with a competition between charity goals. So you had 4 charity goals, the Ronald McDonald House, the Salvation Army, 2 other organizations, and people could team up for one of the 4 charity goals. And for every kilometer they traveled sustainable, they collected the points, and that meant that the points went to that charity goal of their choice, and that was combined with, I think, 5,000 euros as a reward, divided like 2,500 euros for the charity goals that got the most points, say 1,250 for the second one, and then the third and the fourth got the rest of the money. And the idea was that also the charity goals promoted the use of sustainable transport, gather people to team up with their charity goal to use the application in order to get the biggest chunk of the reward, so to say. So here we use charity goals as a proxy to get users and to stimulate sustainable travel. That was end of last year, and at the moment they use now the application and the challenges and the rewards as a competition between Stockholm and Gothenburg. Which city is the most sustainable when it comes to travel? So they use the cities and for example, Chalmers University is both in Stockholm as well as in Gothenburg, and there they use the competition element between the cities to stimulate sustainable travel. In Odense, in Denmark, they focused on children, and there if children walk to school or cycle to school, also using an application, you could collect points, and based on that you could get a reward. For example, that you could got a cinema ticket, or you could take your class to the cinema, because it was a competition between schools, between classes, and between individuals. So different levels of competition with different rewards, but also using technology to track and trace, to deliver challenges, but also very intensive interaction with the children on the schools with students who were hired to promote all this sustainable travel. Sorry, then we have Milan. They have different challenges based on different feelings of people. For example, more of a challenge, or is it about freedom, is it about community, is it about happiness, is it about nature, is it about health? So for every month they had a different theme, and based on that theme they have a different challenge for people to participate. And then the reward can be a bike, for example, connected to the theme. So for example, for a challenge it was a race bike, and for freedom it was a mountain bike, and all these kind of things. And they also use personas in order to send a message. So to connect to a person. Some person is more about, I would like to share something, I would like to do something together. The other one just wants to win. And based on those personas, they identified 4 personas. They sent different messages around a theme. But for a challenge, for the group, for example, who's more into the social interaction, etc., it could be a challenge. So, okay, if you cycle as a group to the city center, then you can get points. And at the same time, they had a challenge. For example, if you are the highest scorer, if you cycle the most, you can get points. So then it's more leaderboard kind of thing. So referring or connecting to the personas around the theme. And at the moment, for example, they combine, there's some Italian and some Dutch, because my Italian is limited. So it's a Facebook post, Facebook campaign, and it says something like, okay, in Milan we love sports, and we have different locations in our city where we can do sports. So visit those locations and you can get rewarded and use the application, Autos Volta it's called here, but it's kind of a modified application from the smart application I showed before. So it does track and trace, so it knows if you have been to a specific location, it knows what type of modality you used to visit a specific location, and based on that you can get points. So it's kind of a bit of a city promotion, let citizens know what the city is. You can do it with musea or with cultural hotspots, go outside and discover the surroundings of Milan, as an example. And in Helsinki, it's more based on a company level. So there is more a competition between companies or within a company between people. And there it's more money based. So if you there save money because you travel more sustainable, you use the car less, that makes that the company save money. And that money is then divided between the company and the people who contribute to the savings. And there you can, and there it is combined with a competition between employees of one company And of course, you can scale up it, competition between companies, and you can also then have a competition between companies, in cities, and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, what like that is nothing to do with gamification, but it's very important when we look at the whole running of these schemes, getting people involved, is that where does the money come from and where does it go to? Where are the benefits, where are the costs? Because at some point you have to bring them together in order to maintain a system like this, to operate a system like this, and to create impact on a city level or on a company level or on all kind of levels. So that's why it is important when we developed all kind of services and we test things in cities where we look very much at who is involved, which partners should be involved. Is it about moving money from A to B? Is it about in-kind rewards? All these kind of things. And in the end, we can do a lot of technology. We can do a lot of stakeholder involvement and show where the profits are. But getting users is really the key. So it's about technology, of course, it has to work. But getting users, have your marketing right, is the campaign, all these kind of things is really important to make this whole system work. So thank you for your attention. This is my name, here are my contact details, and also the Empower Project website. We have a toolkit where we deliver, where we describe and show how, for example, incentivize people when it comes to active travel. And we also have a website, and it's spelled wrong, but it's called mobilityapps.eu, where some more information about the applications we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcel. Very interesting project, very interesting applications of how to use this gamification, and really really interesting way to use it in different way through competitions, challenges. Why do we need to use more bikes or other clean transportation services? We agree that it's because of major issues here in cities. It's about air quality, and hackAIR is actually about this. It's about measuring air pollution in our cities. So I will now leave the floor to Gavin McCrory, a researcher from the VUB, the University Institute, to present the citizen engagement strategy of the hackAIR project. Gavin, you can now show your screen. One last thing I will ask you is, because we are a bit ahead of schedule, if you could please stay a bit longer for the Q&A session so that we leave Gavin the time to present correctly his project. Thanks a lot, Gavin. We are waiting for you.
Thanks, Rebecca, for the introduction. My name is Gavin. I'm a researcher at the Free University of Brussels, and I work in the Department of Media, Innovation and Technology. And I'll be presenting alongside Dimitris, who is a partner responsible for the development of the gamification engine that will be embedded into the hackAIR mobile application. So in a few moments, Dimitris will talk about the gamification component in more detail. Firstly, as a starting point, the hackAIR project operates in the domain of air pollution, which is a rapidly growing and quite topical issue in the context of European cities. Despite the fact that air pollution is the single environmental issue that Europeans worry about the most, nearly 6 out of 10 Europeans don't feel informed about air quality issues in their city. Okay, so yeah, as you can see also on the slide, a large number of citizens live in European cities that consistently fail to meet both EU particulate matter limit values and World Health Organization guidelines. So the worrying nature of air pollution, this has led to increased levels of media attention and coverage, particularly in the winter periods, where stories have focused on the potential health, well-being, and economic consequences in a city context. And you can only look at the levels of pollution in European cities such as Paris as a reflection that cities now have to rethink existing strategies and respond aggressively to reduce pollutant concentrations. So if you'd like to switch to the next slide, Rebecca, slide 3. To provide useful estimates for air quality, we need to fill in the gaps and complement the existing reference points and systems. To narrow spatial gaps, we need to improve access to data across many and heterogeneous sources, and we need to provide up-to-date air quality information as and when is required. If you would like to move on to the next slide. And in cities and amongst citizens, there's a growing recognition that individual and collective action is required to protect societal well-being and encourage sustainable lifestyles. And if you'd like to move on to the next slide. And so this slide shows hackAIR in a nutshell. And I guess an initial point of curiosity for us was what happens when you combine open technology, participatory sensing, and air quality in a European context. So the hackAIR platform focuses on collecting, fusing, publishing, and visualizing air pollution data from both publicly available sources, which include measurements by existing air quality stations and open data portals, and geotagged and time-stamped images posted through social media platforms such as Twitter and Flickr. It then combines these data sources and provides access through community data-driven sources, and users can contribute to this data generation on the platform either via a mobile application or through measurements that are submitted by citizens using DIY low-cost sensors. If you'd like to move on to slide 6. So this is kind of a timeline for where we are with hackAIR. The project started in 2016 and will run until the end of 2018. And we're at a transition phase between the technical and systems integration and the pilot operation and engagement. So pilot testing will be deployed in Oslo in Norway and Berlin in Germany. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. And this will run for 16 months. So we're at a vital stage, and one of the core components of the hackAIR platform will be a gamification engine, which is embedded into the mobile application. And Demetrius can now discuss the elements of this strategy, our gamification strategy, in more detail.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Meeuwissen. I'm one of the developers that is working on the hackAIR platform right now. I'm part of Draxis. It's a Greek company that is one of the partners in this hackAIR project. So I'm going to go very quick overview over what we're doing with the gamification tool set. It's basically more or less pretty much the same as what Mr. Stavros said in the beginning of this presentation, because we worked closely on this project. So as you can see in the slide, our goals are to introduce hackAIR and introduce users to the hackAIR application and give them a nice onboarding process that will make them feel familiar with the whole interface and get to know how to use everything. And we'd also like to help them build a habit in checking and submitting air quality measurements from where they are, their whole environment, and also to give them a bit of a push and provide tips on how to improve any user's health. Could we change the slide, please? To do this, we use quite a few components of the gamification toolset mentioned by Mr. Lunis. We put the user we give the user a role. We'd like them to feel that he's the most important person around. So we give him things to do, like missions, which is basically they could be from things like take a photo of the sky so that we can analyze it. It could be also just submit of your feeling today to see how you feel the air. Things that drive engagement and make the user feel a bit quite important, that he's actually contributing something. We also use tips and which provide small tips like today is a nice day to go for a cycle, to take your bicycle, or you could go to the park and have a picnic with your family. Again, this is to drive engagement. And we also use achievements, aka badges and levels. So as the user progresses through the platform, he or she gains levels, and at some point will become a hackAIR expert. And we also use push notifications, which we try not to be too abusive with them. Small, nice notifications just to let the user know and not forget about us, to let him know that him or her know that the air quality is good or there's a new mission coming out for you. Could we go to the next slide, please? And here's a small example, and I'll just give you one quick example of the onboarding process. So when a user logs on for the first time, we ask him to fill out we give him a first mission, which is to fill out his or her small details that we didn't ask upon registration, like his location, his interests, his groups of if he has any health problems, sort of these kind of things that we'd like to collect optionally, just to help with personal recommendations for each user, because we do that. We do personalized recommendations. Once you finish the first mission, you'll get your first level. You will feel an achievement. The user will feel an achievement, and then from that point on, it's either a new game loop, which adds them to the new achievements. Basically, they try to achieve the new achievements that the new level has given them, or they can start browsing the app, or they can leave the application. It's basically the first flow of the user. And I think that's pretty much it from me. I'm happy to answer any questions after this, and I'll pass the microphone back to Gavin.
Thanks, Dimitris. So Rebecca, if you could move to the next slide. So now I'd like to take the last 5 or so minutes to discuss how gamification, as presented by Dimitris, doesn't stand in isolation in hackAIR, but is rather one connected element within a broader engagement strategy that's actually been running from the start of the project. So the hackAIR platform will be tested in real-life environments, and the aim is to close the gap between awareness and behavior change on air quality by providing citizens with real-time information on the current status of air quality, with real actionable steps to reduce their individual contributions to air pollution through ICT technology, and providing users with personalized recommendations in line with the current status of air quality on actions that they can perform to protect either themselves or those that they care about against air pollution. And we also want to foster engagement on a social and collective level by allowing and encouraging citizens to actively participate in the monitoring of atmospheric particulate matter concentrations, and also to participate in a community of users that share a concern about the effects and consequences of air pollution. So if you'd like to switch to the next slide. And how do we do this? So what are the elements and the features that we use that are as part of our engagement strategy? Well, we've designed a project and a platform that will reduce barriers to behavior rather than act on restricting choices, that uses fused air quality data from heterogeneous sources, and that shows this on a web and app interface, both of which will become available in the coming months. It provides information on available alternatives and tips that people can use in their daily lives and practices. And pilot phases will be an important place to focus on the urgent and very local nature of air pollution and build upon the lessons learned that we've gathered across industry and academia, and at the same time use the existing capacities that are available in both Norway and Germany, and also unofficial pilots and other pilots. Gamification, as I've mentioned, stands as one part of a broader solution that is complemented by 2 very different components, but both of which I think are equally important in the context of hackAIR, which are co-creation and citizen science as mechanisms for engagement. So in the context of co-creation, it's quite common that digital services and ICT technologies are designed in contexts that exclude user participation until the beginning of the testing period, which basically means that the needs of the user or the citizen are often assumed during the development process. What hackAIR has done is deliberately weaved co-creation as an engagement mechanism into the design stages of the project from the very start. The platform is being co-created with user communities in Oslo in Norway and Berlin in Germany, using tools such as low-fidelity wireframes, interface mock-ups, and fictive scenarios. If you'd like to find out more about those, please check our hackAIR website. We have public deliverables which will show this. And in fact, even the user requirements for the gamification engine and the gamification strategy that were presented by Dimitris have been developed during this co-creation stage. This was done to create a solution that citizens have shaped from the beginning, that's privacy compliant by design, and that will ultimately serve to foster a sense of ownership during the duration of the project. Secondly, I think the concept of citizen science offers an interesting perspective and has a lot of parallels with what we try to do with hackAIR. For example, with our vision, we do rely on the voluntary contributions of those, and with other projects as have been presented, They rely on the voluntary contributions of others during the remainder of the project. So engagement and behavior is a fundamental underpinning strategy. We want to promote collective and community-based approach to environmental management, where users have the resources and tools to build their own data collection processes and to learn how to measure and interpret air pollution data. And for example, one recent way to show our efforts to combine co-creation and citizen science, during the months of April and May, international students from high schools in Oslo and Akershus in Norway tested and evaluated our current hackAIR sensors in their stage. They also decided to print a 3D case showing that users do have a curiosity and a motivation towards open technologies in different stages. In terms of support guides and step-by-step instructions are in development for users and who will be interested in building their own sensors, either via open hardware or more commercial off-the-shelf solutions. And in addition, in-app walkthroughs and videos will be available for anyone that wants to familiarize themselves quickly and fluidly with the platform. Over the next 6 months, we also want to strengthen our physical presence in the pilot locations and in other strategic areas. So we'll host workshops to engage citizens, to engage policymakers, to engage research institutes and other projects. We also want to use interactive tools such as photo safaris and mutual learning sessions to encourage data journalism and storytelling amongst users. Rebecca, if you'd like to move to the next slide. And then in the context of real-world implementation, we'll be officially testing hackAIR between September 2017 and December 2018. And the goal is to engage close to 10,000 users across the lifetime of the project. So we'll be doing this officially in Berlin in Germany and in Oslo in Norway. In Germany, we'll be doing this in partnership with Bund, Friends of the Earth, and we'll be piloting and building upon an established base of already interested citizens interested in measuring air quality. In partnership with NILU in Norway, the Norwegian Institute of Air Quality, we will be piloting at the same time in Oslo and Norway, and we'll predominantly target health interest groups, asthma organizations, and schools. But also unofficially, we have other plans for at least 2 other pilots in a European context, both operating at the same time. One of which is in Athens in Greece, and will focus on schools and children, and a second one in Brussels in Belgium, with ongoing collaborations with the Flemish media provider and Clean Air Brussels, which is a citizens movement that campaigns for clean air in the city of Brussels. If you'd like to move to the next slide, Rebecca. As I've mentioned also in the chat, we're working towards strengthening our online presence, and we have a dedicated communications partner who will be able to reach out at any moment in the run-up to our pilot phase. Be sure to check our project webpage, our Twitter or Facebook pages, both of which can be seen on this presentation slide. And also, if you're interested in any of the opportunities available on hackAIR, make sure to sign up for our news and updates. Valerio, I've seen your comment, and we can get back to this in the Q&A afterwards, and maybe Dimitris can give an example of a mission within hackAIR. Thanks for your time and attention. I apologize about the technical problems, but the webinar will be available online after, and also I can send the slides through. And I'd now like to introduce one of our partners, Panayota, for the last few moments, who can also work with us for the Q&A session. Thanks.
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, Dimitris, for this presentation. We will now have time for a couple of questions. If attendees can actually keep on following the webinar. A question for all the speakers actually. What gamified smart city solutions have you been inspired by, and if you have good practice examples? Really quickly, could you please, each one of you, say one other gamified smart city solutions that inspired you? I will first give the floor to Gavin. So maybe one.
Yeah, I've been inspired by the Green Apes Challenge, which is an interesting application that tries to promote sustainable environmental change using a gamified web platform and application platform. And it essentially works. There's a social media or social community alongside other reward mechanisms, and you can collect points in the form of bananas. And we used it as an application in our master's program. It was very interesting. It was very enjoyable. But I think one of the challenges was that it's very hard to sustain this type of engagement when it's in isolation, especially when all of the engagement mechanisms focus directly through the application and the web platform. And I think for us, that was also a bit of a problem, but nonetheless, a very enjoyable experience.
Okay, thanks. Marcel, do you have one?
Well, I don't have a specific app that inspired us, but what I do see is that, for example, in the Milan case that I presented, I really like their approach about different people, different angles to approach them. The difficulty, or one of the things that I really found challenging, because we talk about a change for people to something they might not do within Empower. For example, they love to ride a car, and we would like to have them use the bike. Is that people usually use apps and download apps that support their behavior they are showing at the time they like. And the challenge for us is to let people use an application and be challenged on things they not like or they not usually do. So that's kind of a challenge. And there are a lot of kind of different approaches, different things that you can do. So collecting bananas would be great. I love bananas. Same with sometimes badges, sometimes leaderboards, sometimes personal challenges, sometimes group challenges. I think a combination of it all to create actual impact. That's the hard part, but that's also the fun part. So not a concrete answer on your question, but some ideas.
Okay, thanks. Stavros, really quickly, do you have one?
Yes, I wouldn't also go with the one or two as an inspiration. However, I could, based on smart cities, because ours is a bit different about employees, okay, in public buildings, I would go with different mini games such as Power Matrix or Electro City or Ener Cities for a global theme, for example, and for specific gamification elements, I would go first of all to the major platforms to see what they have trained participants to know gamification is, like Badgeville, Big Door, Gigi, etc. And I personally like a lot Ecoinomy, which is a very good example. Ecoinomy, Julebug, and Kukui Cup, which is offline. It's a cup actually in Hawaii for winning. So these are my 2 cents.
Okay, good, thanks. Let's go to another question to hackAIR, actually, asked by Valerio from IMEC. hackAIR, can you give an example of a mission within hackAIR that you developed within hackAIR?
Yeah, I can do that. Dimitris again. So there are many kinds of missions. Most of them are so people can contribute measurements, which are either taken either by photo or by submitting your feelings. So one of the missions, for example, one that I'm getting off the list now, is the quest for clean lungs, where it's trying to get the user to visit areas with low levels of air pollution, and that's something that you can see on the map within the app. So once you get to that location, you will get a little pop-up that says achievement unlocked, and you'll get 400 experience points, and then you'll probably go to the next level. That's a small example of one of our missions. There are some other ones, sharing air quality information with your friends every month, which gains 100 points, 100 experience points. There's all sorts of kinds of missions that just try to drive engagement and reusability of the app.
All right, thanks. I do personally have one because all three projects have developed an application, an API for the game. From a data management part, I would be interesting to know which one of the partner is actually collecting data, and if it's analyzed in-house and whether you share or not this data. So what do you do with that? What I can do is maybe ask first Marcel, if that's it. That's the municipality of Enschede that is analyzing in-house the data results and mobility patterns, and then maybe we can go to hackAIR because there are different non-for-profit organizations. And then Charge will be Stavros from Charge will be able to explain us a bit if you will actually create an app, which was a question from the audience.
Okay, Marcel, yes, here. Well, the data depends a little bit on which application is being used. But if it's if it's a smart application, then the data is gathered by the service provider, which is one of the partners in the Empower project. Name is Mobidot. They collect the data, they store the data, make sure that it's all privacy proof and these kind of things, because it's really personal data. And like I said, we could deduct where people live, where people work, where people sleep, whatever they do. So the data storage is that part. The analysis within the Empower project are being done by University of Twente, by the ITS Leeds University ITS Leeds, and by TNO mainly, and also the Wuppertal Institute actually, who is responsible for the evaluation part. So it's a combination of partners who do this. When I look on a city level, because the smart data is not only being used for Empower, but it's broader used, and we already operate smart for quite a few years. There it's a combination of that either the service provider does the analysis or the city itself does some analysis. On both on challenges and creating challenges for people and targeting specific groups, as well as on outcomes of the challenges.
Okay, thanks. Gavin, this question is for you. Just during the presentation, you said that you were giving personalized user recommendations. So my question would be both to Dimitris, which kind of data do the app collect, and to Gavin, whether you as the university, you analyze it, and whether you share the data with other stakeholders.
Should I start, Gavin? This Dimitris again.
I think that would be.
Okay, so for the personalized recommendation, we're actually working with a research organization here in Greece, the CERT. It's the Center for Research and Technology. I can't remember exactly the acronym, what it means, but they are handling the whole personal recommendation. The only data that we actually collect from users is a location, which is not very to the spot. It could be a location that could be in a radius of about 10 kilometers. And mostly their habits. So we ask the users about their habits, what they're into. Do they like cycling? Do they like taking picnics? It's nothing personally identifiable. And then other than that, we use an email. We get their email address. So we try to be as impersonal as possible, but also as personal as possible to be able to get the recommendations out to the user. But again, based on what they need to give us. That's all we're basically collecting.
Yeah, and I think I can agree with what Dimitris has said. From the side of the VUB, we don't collect any personal information with regards to the personalized recommendation. That doesn't follow through us. We are involved in other types of data collection, and in these processes we anonymize the data, or we make sure that it's pseudonymous so that it's compliant with data standards. So we make sure that there are no issues when it comes to data.
All right, thanks. And Stavros, question from Michael a bit before was, will you create an application for Apple or Play Store? And if yes, if it will be ready soon?
Yeah. So thank you for the question, Michael. An app will be developed, of course, as the touch point is through a mobile application, and it will be available and served through the respective stores. However, as that app utilizes information from a big electricity monitoring system, as well as installed sensors on specific locations, and also it relies on interaction with users to devices, it needs to have a whole infrastructure. So the app is not to be used by people outside an organization that has the entire thing. So even if it is up, it's up on the store, the way to utilize it and to use it would be through installed organization, so it's not to be played by me, for example.
Okay, thanks. A question from Melanie to all speakers. Have you demonstrated a value for money or a business model behind? I mean, we had a bit this Pat and Marcel presentation, so maybe you want to start first.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. I think it's really important to look into this, like I said during my presentation. As a city of Enschede, we started with, it was already in 2009, when we started the first ideas of smart. And that was because we had to build a tunnel and a bridge. Cost 40 million euros. We had like 0 million euros, like zero, well, euros anyway. And therefore we said, okay, you can find some solution where we can persuade, for example, 10% of the people to avoid peak hour. Then we don't have an issue when it comes to peak capacity of the road, and we can save 40 million. Of course, because we didn't have the 40 million, I can't spend the 40 million on other things, but that was kind of the start of the project, resulted in SMART and previous Sunset project and European project and now Empower. That's really when it comes to a lot of money. When it comes to, at the current stage, running a service, because then did we get 10% of the people to avoid peak hour? No, not yet. So on an impact level, we didn't reach that goal yet. So you could say, okay, it's not, we didn't save 40 million. So far we spent several million. When it comes to, at the moment, the development costed money. Now it's running a service. And it costs between 50,000 and 100,000 euros a year, I think. Usually, as a city, we do a lot of research when it comes to travel patterns, travel times, surveys on mobility, determining model split, etc., etc. And now we can use the smart application and the data to gather all this. So we save a lot of money when it comes to surveys and research, and that kind of pays for running a service like Smart and getting users involved, etc., etc. However, still for the long run, there is a kind of, is it the discussion also, is it a city who has an interest? Is it an insurance company, for example, because also we stimulate active travel? That might be interesting for insurance company, health insurance company. We save on, we can stimulate, of course, improvement of air quality by more active travel, less use of conventional fuel vehicles. So there are all benefits, but quantifying the benefits, finding somebody who is the owner of these benefits and getting then the money to run this, that's really still tricky, hard.
All right, thanks. We will now move to the last question because we're a bit running beyond the schedule largely. But the last question before we go, I ask the last question. I know that there are other questions like Jonas who asked in the chat if it was easy to get people involved. I would now recommend to all the attendees that contact directly the speakers that put their we put their contact details on their presentations if you have more concrete questions about the project themselves. And of course, I will make available the presentations on our website. So if you need to watch it again or hear it again, everything will be available. One last question, and very quickly, because it's related to the technological trends. What do you think about the use of 3D city models or virtual reality in games in city context? Is it something that will come soon? Whoever wants to start.
Yeah, Marcel, I don't know. Oh, that's kind of my short answer.
Other people want to answer to that question?
I can take a try, as Dimitris. I think it will take a while. It will come. We will start using VR in both in gaming and in the gamification. While gamifying applications, we will start using VR. But I think it'll take another 5 or 10 years because it's not there yet. The whole technology is not yet ready.
Yeah, and I heard about the project on London. Looks a bit dangerous to use virtual reality on a bike. Okay, thanks everyone for attending this webinar. Sorry about the small technical problems. You will be able to watch the webinar again on our YouTube channel. And please do not hesitate to contact directly all speakers with further questions. Well, thank you and wish you a good day. Bye.